Anybody can make my voice shake is my dad. Pastor Turner, I don't know how you got him up this morning, but I'm so glad that you did. I'm in here to say that. You know, we seek, just like we seek God's approval, you know, we seek our parents' approval for a different reason, you know. There is one commandment that has a promise with it, and that's to honor your parents. I think sometimes we want to put an expiration date on that honoring of your parents, but it doesn't end. Walking on this planet, we're required to honor our parents. So, and I'm honored that you would say such wonderful things, and you know the other side of that coin as well. For you to be so polite and say so many awesome things about me, I'm honored. I'm just humbled that you would say what you said to my awesome, beautiful wife. Neither one of us are really good morning people. So for her to be here and support, I'm just so glad. And to all my friends and my family, it's just truly an honor, a blessing, a privilege to be here in a room full of so many dedicated public servants, celebrating the life, the legacy, and ultimately the sacrifice of one of the greatest, if not the greatest, public servants in our nation's history, the Honorable Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. How fitting it is for us to have this conversation over a meal. Because you see in the Bible, every honest and every super commemoration took place over a feast, or during a feast or a festival. So it's just a blessing to be here in such festive occasion. So I'm genuinely honored to take part in this festive occasion. I'm humbled that so many great leaders and pillars of this community would ask me to be a part of these festivities. I've got a confession to make to you before we get started. In my younger days, I would approach these assignments with a different twist. In my younger days, I had a goal to sensationalize, to subtly be satirical, or to secretly promote. In other words, I wanted to encourage an audience to indulge into fantasies, into false realities, and sometimes illusions of grandeur. I just wanted to make people laugh, wanted people to feel good. I just wanted to covertly address the issues that plague our community instead of being concrete, precise, and candid. Finally, I really wanted to do a good job for you, and I wanted you to be proud of me. I wanted you to leave and say that Judge David or David Williams or Attorney Williams or City Attorney David Williams, he sure spoke well today. He did a good job. So I had this kind of sense of self-promotion that was poisonous. Finally, I just really wanted you to like me a little bit, if I'm being honest, in my younger days. However, life is too short and God is too real. And if I've learned anything from the life of the great Dr. King, I cannot escape the exhausting example of how telling the truth will almost always remain unpopular, unwanted, and undermined. But that's exactly what I'm going to try to do today in the brief conversation that we're going to have. Unfortunately, division and divisiveness is one of those truths. And when you talk about it, it doesn't make you feel good. It's not funny, and I absolutely know it will not make you like me if we have that conversation. I was looking at a program, or actually one of the flyers, and on the flyer it said, "One Nation and One Dream." And I wanted to talk about what one nation means to me, the idea I had of one nation. And if only we had some kind of creed or some kind of pledge that gave us an example of what one nation is. And I'm so glad that about 14 minutes ago we all stood when the great color guard came before us and we put our hands on our chests and we boldly proclaimed that we were one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Isn't it ironic? As divided as we are, we can stand with our chest poked out, with the flag waving, and boldly but blindly recite this Constitution of our pledge of allegiance to our country. However, in this last measure, it clearly litigates the legislative intent of the rights and privileges that our Constitution intended to afford to the citizens. This is what made Dr. King so volatile. This is what made him so scary to the powers that be. Because he held our people of our nation to the words that we would consistently and confidently and courageously claim. He put our feet and held them to the fire. He wouldn't let you say it. My son Noble, who was an awesome young man, he just made Student of the Year actually at Brain. He's 14. And the thing about Noble, if you ask my wife, and if you ask Brother Ben, who was a mentor to him, if you ask his grandfather, his GP, he'll tell you, if you tell Noble you're going to do something, you sure as well better do it. He'll hold you to it. Not only will he obsess about it, he will remind you about it, he'll send you texts, he'll secretly and verbally remind you. And that's what we have to do. Just like Dr. King, if we make these proclamations, if we make these assessments, if we say this is what we're going to do, and hold our feet to the fire. If we say we one nation, if we say that we're undivided, if we say that liberty and justice and access is for all people, then we have to hold our feet to the fire. What does one nation mean? What does one nation truly mean? However, this last stanza clearly explains exactly what it means. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. What is one nation? It's under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. What is one nation? It's under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. How carefully crafted by the minister Francis Bellamy in the closing stanza, it left us no clue on how we consider one nation. One nation is under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dr. King figured this out. He understood that racism, discrimination, and prejudice was not the problem. It was just a byproduct of the real issue. Just like the vicious cycle in the book of Judges, the people continually turned away from God. Continually turned away from God. What is under God? Ironically, Minister Francis Bellamy, who wrote the Pledge of Allegiance in 1892, he didn't include this phrase in the original pledge. Did y'all know that? No, he didn't. Eisenhower convinced Congress to add it in 1954 in response to Congress pressure. However, God's purpose and intent once again superseded men's intent, or the purpose intent. Under God, under the authority of God. One of my favorite legal phrases is under the auspices. Under the auspices. It simply means that some sort of law, rule, or legislation gives you the delegated authority to act under and according to the guidance of that legal authority. Our nation, our state, our parish, our city, our community will truly not be unified as one nation until we genuinely learn how to live this creed. Under God. Under God. We cannot merely continue to try to contemporate or try to consist or continue to add or incorporate our own philosophies. 1 Corinthians 3:19 tells us that the wisdom of the world is folly, is foolishness. The wisdom of the world is foolishness. Proverbs 3:5 instructs us to trust in the Lord with all of our heart and lean not to our own understanding. There's a way that seems right unto a man, but the end is what? Death, destruction. We can't keep incorporating our own ideas. We can't keep pushing our own concepts. God has already written the instruction manual. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's already rolling. It's already here. We don't need our philosophies. That word folly means foolishness. The Bible said that our righteousness, what we believe is right, what we think is correct, what we think is honest, what we think is true, what we think is fair is like dirty rags to God. It's easy. It's plagiarism. He already wrote it. We don't have to redo it. Until we understand this concept, we cannot truly be one nation. We cannot truly be one nation until we're acting under the auspices of God. This is why Dr. King was so effective. Because as a man of God and as a minister of the faith, he also allowed the patterns and example of Christ to rule and to guide him. Selflessness, promoting peace, procuring unity, inclusiveness. Y'all remember, he had a division. He had a ministry of not of division, but of inclusion. And that's why he was so effective. Procuring unity, inclusiveness, love, and acceptance, and making himself of no reputation. He ultimately became a sacrificial pillar for the cause of eliminating injustice and inequality. God's guidance. God's wisdom is wisdom. Proverbs consistently teaches us that wisdom begins what? With the fear of the Lord, with the reverence of the Lord. If you're not acting under the reverence, under the authority of our God, you will fail. I'm sorry. I wish I could give you better news. I wish there were other avenues to get there. I wish there was an easier roadmap. I wish like our GPS, you could just click it. It can give you all
alternate routes, but there is no alternate route. If you're not under the authority, if you're not under the auspices of God, I promise you, the only reason that we are here today to celebrate the life of such a great man of God is because we absolutely believe and follow the principles and the guidelines of God. There are so many great civil rights leaders who came before him and behind him. But ask yourself, why is he so effective? Why was it so significant? Why was his work so good? Why did it work? Because he acted under the auspices of God. He followed those principles, and those principles, they work. It's not a broken system. Indivisible. Division is the poison that plagues our country. Division is the poison that plagues our country. All the way from the steps of Capitol Hall to the steps of City Hall. If division is the enemy's war strategy, then the offense is his effective and most effective weapon. Let me say that again. If division is the enemy's war strategy, then offense is his most effective weapon. You go ahead and crack open your social media page right now. I promise you, anything that's divisive will have the most views. If it's inclusive, you better hope it stays there. You better hope that it doesn't violate the guidelines of social media and they allow it to stay. Divisiveness sells. Everybody wants to pick a side. Everybody wants to fight for the sake of fighting. Division is the poison that plagues our society. And if division is the enemy's strategy, then offense is his greatest weapon. He wants you to be mad at each other. He wants you to look at your fellow brothers and sisters, white, black, purple, or green, and find a reason to be different. Find a reason to be upset. There are certain words, if I said today, I promise you it would stir something up in you right now. Trump. You feel that? Biden. You feel that? I'm going to stop right there. I want to come back one minute. Dr. King understood this, and he preached a message of inclusiveness. And if you look at his message, he never promoted division. He never promoted one race over the other race. I'm sorry, black people. He never promoted one race over the other. Nor did Jesus Christ. He said, I came for the Jews first, but for all the Gentiles as well. He followed that example. There is no place for division in our community. There's no place for division in our country. There's no place for division in our homes. There's no place for division in our churches. There's no place for division in our families. But truly united, we stand. But divided, we fall. One of my favorite scriptures, Acts 2:1-2. When the day of Pentecost was fully come, they were all with one accord in one place. And suddenly there came a sound in the heavens like a rushing mighty wind that filled all the house where they were sitting. I love that word, one accord. It's not a vehicle made by Honda. It means of one purpose and of one mind. Of one purpose and of one mind. That means it's not just what you do out here. It's what you think, right? So a man thinking. We have to have the same purpose. If we truly want to come together and eradicate division, we have to have the same purpose. We all have to want the same thing. We all have to desire the same thing. That means you have to change your mind frame. I think there's a scripture that says the people that are in Christ are a new creature. Let this mind be in you, and all things will help me out. I don't know the Bible. It said all things are passed away. Let this mind be in me. That's something like that, right? So we already got an example of the mind that we should have, right? That mind works, and this is why Dr. King was so effective. Liberty and justice for all. You know, one reason, and let me tell you, the first thing that I learned in the first 10 years of my practice as an attorney is that it was not truly liberty and justice for all. Just being real. I told you I didn't want to be popular today. I didn't want to just do a good speech. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. The first thing that I was starting to see over and over again is that if you were connected to certain people, If you had certain resources, then you would get a greater benefit. And that aggravated me. Oh, it hurt me. There should be a human element. There should be a Christ element in you. That when you see injustice, and if it's not access for all people, that's injustice. There should be something in you that yearns for that correction. That wants people to be treated the same. That broke my heart. We were doing okay. I'm not going to get into it when we were practicing law. Life is pretty good for us. It's been a little tougher for us since we've been in this spot. But let me tell you something. When you're fulfilling the purpose that God has, that's the peace that He gives you. And I get a joy. We should all get a joy. Dr. King did this. You know, he could have stayed in comfort. You know what the biggest cure, the best cure for division is? Discomfort. Dr. King knew this. He knew he had to get uncomfortable to actually make a change. The only cure for division is to have the same mind and purpose and to get uncomfortable. We should all use our positions for the same reason.
Come on.
If you call yourself, we are a public servant, and we all are public servants, and I'm in a room full of giants. There are amazing people in this room who truly care, who truly love the people that they serve. We should all use our platforms for this purpose, because that's what it's for. One dream. One dream. My son Nehemiah, I'm sorry I'll talk about my kids. I'm like a comedian. I'm only going to talk about the material that I have, and I hang out with them all day. But my son Nehemiah, whenever something's magical or whenever something seems unreal, he always asks my wife and I, Daddy, am I dreaming? Am I dreaming? It's like he wants to do a reality check just to make sure this is true. And I'm probably about to get myself in trouble. We used to have these 2 big wheels that we bought for my children for Christmas a couple of years ago. And I got this habit, if I see something that you're not using for this month or something, I'm going to give it away to somebody else so I know I'm going to use it. So the day I gave away the big wheels, not only did I get fussed at by my wife, but Nehemiah, that's the day he wanted to play with it, the day he found out it was missing. He was sitting in that carport just collecting dust for over 3 months, and he wanted it. So he told me I had to promise him for this Christmas I would get him another big wheel. So I went and found one at Target, and I didn't realize that they came disassembled, that I would have to build a car. My wife and I, we stood there for about 4 or 5 hours on Christmas Eve putting that thing together. And when he woke up on Christmas morning, he ran up to me with his eyes big and glassy, and he said, Daddy, am I dreaming? I think, a couple of years ago, I gave a speech, and it was during Black History Month, and I said it was time to wake up. We've been dreaming a long time ago. It's time to wake up. I kind of came there. That premise was to prompt our country, our community to stop dreaming and to wake up and to implement Dr. King's directions in a realm of reality. However, I'm going to be honest with you all. Looking back, I might have been a little bit disrespectful to Dr. King's legacy. And I think that he actually got it right initially. That's why he used the phrase, I have a dream, that still resounds today. See, the thing about a dream is that it's not bound by the constructs of reality. There's no limits when you dream. And that's the reason why Dr. King characterized this objective using the word dream, is because there's nowhere in reality that the people or our ancestors could have imagined that we could enjoy the rights that we have today. My grandfather, Deacon Henry Williams, my papa, when I was a kid, he would drive me around to all of the restaurants in Alexandria, and he would say, no, we couldn't eat here. We couldn't eat here. We could eat here, but we had to go in the back. This is during our era. Dr. King was assassinated in 1968. That wasn't so long ago. We are still suffering from some of the issues that he dealt with, that he ultimately sacrificed himself for. One dream. One dream. This is why his legacy was so important. This is why his sacrifice was so important. Because it was unimaginable to believe that it would ever be possible for black children to play with white children. It was unimaginable for him to believe that black businessmen could sit down at a table and conduct business with white businessmen. It was unimaginable for them to believe that a 39-year-old black boy who grew up on Leland and 3rd Street could be the fourth African-American judge in Alexandria, Louisiana, in that experience. They couldn't see this. A 39-year-old black judge, I'm 43 now, a 39-year-old black, they couldn't imagine that. So they had to dream. They had to. And there's no limits when you dream. There's no restrictions when you dream. There's no boundaries when you dream. Dr. King knew this. He knew this. And he knew that he was not stagnant and he wasn't complacent with comfort. Dr. King got uncomfortable. Not only was he arrested over 30 times. I want y'all to understand this. This man's family received death threats. He couldn't find a school to place his children in. They wouldn't allow him. The Bible tells us that the ultimate public servant was so uncomfortable that his blood drained from his pores. Dr. King knew that and he followed this example. He knew he had to get uncomfortable for this dream to become a reality. And he followed the example of the ultimate perfect public servant who literally wrote the book on his comfort. Who literally wrote the book. He was misunderstood, he was tortured, he was mocked, he was discriminated against, he was ultimately sacrificed for us so he would know how it felt. And so he could give us the ultimate example on how to conduct ourselves when we're faced with the same fate. 1 Peter 4:12 says, "Beloved, I think it not strange concerning the fiery trial, which it is to try you, as though some strange thing has happened to you. But rejoice inasmuch as you are partakers of Christ's sufferings, that when his glory shall be revealed, you may be glad also with exceeding joy." One of my other favorite scriptures, Hebrews 4 says, "Seeing then we have a great high priest that has passed into heavens, Jesus the Son of God, let us hold fast to our profession. For we have not a high priest which cannot be touched with the feeling of our infirmities, was at all points tempted, like we are, yet without sin." So since it's okay, there's nothing wrong to have a dream, then I too have a dream if that's okay. I have a dream that the citizens and leaders of this great city, of this great parish, will come together, fall on their faces, humble themselves, pray, seek the face of God through the sacrifice of his Son, Jesus Christ. Then God will heal the land. What does that mean, then? That means he'll heal our exhausted economy. That means he'll heal our injured infrastructure. That means he will heal our broken judicial system. That means he'll heal our fractured school system. That means that he will heal our confused children. I have a dream. And it may not seem like a reality, but I see it. And we see our children, Nehemiah, Noah, your children, your grandchildren, they're going to realize this dream. Don't be scared to keep dreaming. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We've got the direction. We've got the recipe. All we have to do is follow that to a T and keep dreaming. Live out your dream, but keep dreaming. You got to see some things that are outside of our construct sometimes, but keep dreaming and live out your dream. Thank you so much.